ready to start playing the first mission. Mission 1 starts out at alert level 1. I think the first 4 missions are at alert level 3 to 4 anyway, are at alert level 1, which is an easier setting, and then the campaign will ramp up automatically in difficulty as you play more missions. So in the top right corner of each node card, you'll see a number of a 1, 2, or 3, or some combination thereof. Now on to the first part of the campaign or a mission. We draw strat-op cards. So in addition to the 2 cards I drew for campaign setup, I also just drew, you draw 2 at the beginning of every mission. So maximum resources of 9, and then plus 2 medkit resources for the mission. Those were the 2 new ones I drew. I'm going to go ahead and go with the scout support for this mission. So this will allow us to use scouts to explore and mitigate any events on 2 nodes with a 5+A. So I've gone ahead and selected these 2 here in Cave 1. Squad selection. So part of the reason I went with the scout support is I wanted to go more combat heavy, and I have a Pathfinder specialist I can use, but if I use him, I have less points to spend on units that can shoot. So I figure I will use the scout support plus some intel resources to make it through some node cards that give good reason to bring along the explorer. So basically the caves here have climbing and tracking and scouting, and those are primary skills of the explorer. So to save some squad points for combat units, I left the explorer behind, but I'm going to roll with the scout support and a bunch of intel resources. Because the mercenaries are more likely to be at fire range than melee range, my units are focused more on fire range. I did bring a shotgunner in case we have to deal with a worm. We may have to deal with a couple worms. It's a mission-specific enemy here. Mostly focused on fire. It's always a tough, I agonize over this. I spend a lot of time shuffling through cards and looking at the map and analyzing. There could be 20 different ways to approach a mission. So my thinking here, I went with both of the fire team since they're good at better at fire range. I also went with the heavy weapons unit. He is really skilled at fire range, and his armor-piercing attacks will help if we come across any battle drones who have an ability to negate one wound, except if it's inflicted by an armor-piercing attack. So combat heavy, focused on melee range. I did, as part of this trade-off of balancing squad points, I gave a grenade equipable to the shotgunner. Since he rolls a lot of melee dice, 2 dice per combat phase, he's got good chances of rolling a 5+, which basically with this card resulted in an automatic kill, and also for some reason you get a new resource. Basically allows you to cannibalize parts from the defeated enemies. This mission, you start out with the Pilum ATV, which is a vehicle, and we're going to need that for a few of these outdoor nodes that have the pilot rating skill in the bottom left-hand corner. So that will go ahead and get started. Well, I ended up playing Mission 1, which is Surface Map 2, completed it. Did not end up filming any battle scenes or play-by-play in the interest of time, and not making something drawn out with a bunch of die rolls. Just going to kind of do a recap of the highlights here. So I ended up, like I said earlier, went with a combat-focused team here. Chose to not take a specialist explorer. In lieu, took a bunch of intel and utilized a scout support card so that I could breeze through quite a lot of the map. That was the plan, and be ready for combat. So one of the things I like to consider when I make my squad selection is the number of combat units you take, because combat units plus your squad leader are the only ones that build experience. Specialists do not build experience. So if you take a specialist, you may be losing out, taking one combat unit who then survives a successful mission, gains experience, becomes more valuable and effective down the road. The effect that the combat specialist would have given me, I tried to replicate that through use of the scout support card and a bunch of intel, which I got 1 left. And I went primarily with a fire-focused team. I brought one guy who excels at melee, Darkwing Brooks, the shotgunner, on the chance that we met any worms, and since they are more likely to be found at melee range and they're a lot deadlier. So that was the plan going in, and it worked pretty flawlessly. I was able to move quickly through most of the nodes, starting up here. Move down here with the Pelham ATV, which is the vehicle you're allowed to take on this mission. The Pelham did take some damage here due to a vent, and then able to move along, ended up entering Cave 1, leave the Pelham outside, and the troops entered it. And I had applied my scout support card, the benefits here, so scouts had gone in ahead of time, recon the route, and neutralized any threats, so I did not have to roll to advance, which is would have been very hard to do without the Explorer. So I was able to move through these nodes one per turn easily, used an intel to get to the location in Cave 1 where the scientists were held, got lucky and found 2 of the 4 we needed to find, backed out, and made some quick time, was able to actually add a turn marker to the limit. So normally you're limited to 30 rounds, but when you do a reverse movement and backtrack, sometimes you get to move quickly and it actually adds bonus time for you to complete the mission. So came around here, used the Pelham ATV, and got to this location, didn't find any worms, was able to advance quickly into the first location in Cave 2, triggered an event there, found 3 mercenary soldiers, entered combat, and was able to knock them out pretty handily. Suffered 2 wounds in doing so, and I assigned one to the shotgunner, Darkwing Brooks, one to fire team, McFly Norton. But combat only lasted 2 rounds, got some good rolls, and the squad leader was able to generate a command point and use that to direct everyone to use intensive fire, which costs some ammo, but allows them to add +1 to all their combat rolls. Anyway, able to inflict a lot of damage, knocked both 2 mercenaries out the first combat round, last one out the second round. Only sustained 2 wounds. I did not heal them because medkits can be utilized at the time an injury is received, basically even to prevent death on a wound that would cause death or out of action status. So since you have the freedom to apply those when an otherwise fatal wound would be inflicted, and where the player is awarded bonus victory points for not spending resource tokens, I elected to keep those and never got into any more combat, so that was a good choice. Got out with a couple extra victory points. Anyway, that combat ended. Used the intel to get into this node, found 1 scientist, backed out. I think I used an intel somewhere up here too along the way. Did not trigger any worm battles. Came down here where another scientist location was. Used the Pelham to get inside there with the pilot ability. Found 1 last scientist. That makes 4-4, so the mission's over. Successfully, pretty benign mission. Happy to have. A lot of times they can be grueling heartbreaks as you suffer a lot of casualties and generate a lot of enemies. So I'll take it when I can get it, especially early in the game. Allows me to build up hopefully a little bit of capacity and improve the effectiveness of my troops. At the end of the mission, we score 6 victory points, 3 for completing it successfully. 1 victory point for every 2 resources unspent. So I had 4 here. I came across a grenade at a cache along the way. So get 2 victory points for having 4 resources left over, plus 1 point for utilizing only 1 strat ops card. All the units get 3 experience points, and you get 1 bonus point, and I gave that to the squad leader, Mikowai, negotiator. So I spent the experience points right away. So the squad leader, I gave him the tactics ability, which makes him more effective at changing the combat range, which is a really important ability to have. You don't want to find yourself at a disadvantageous combat range. Battle Mech Murph and McFly Norton, 2 fire teams, they each bumped up to veteran status, so they get an extra AP when rolling fire attacks. Same way with heavy weapons. Pirate Mario gets an extra AP action point when rolling fire attacks. And Darkwing Brooks here, veteran as well, and he'll be more effective when rolling melee attacks, which he gets to make 2 as a shotgunner. So that is the end of Mission 1. We'll go ahead and clean this up, and before we do so, let's roll pick our mission 2 and go through some strat ops cards. So, next mission will be an encounter. Dropship attack. Discard 1 remaining squad resource at random. All right, I had to do a quick rules lookup here. So the dropship attack, discard 1 remaining squad resource at random. That actually occurs at the beginning of mission 2 after I have selected my resources. So I know that I'll have to deal with dropship attack at that point and lose a random resource. So we got to keep drawing until we get a mission. Oh, hive. I hate the hives. Objective, recon the cave network by getting 3 recon points at alert level 1. All right, after we select the mission, here's our 3 remaining strat op cards. Draw 2 more. Experts, you have 15 additional XP to upgrade any of your specialists. And this is a one-time thing only. Specialists don't get experience or improve their skills. This is specific to one mission. Reinforce. You receive the following reinforcement points. All right, go ahead and get mission 2 set up.